Hi everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder. Today we're diving into the financial report of Telesat, a satellite company. It's a bit like stargazing through a telescope. We're looking at something way up there, but this time it's their money, not the stars. Ready to see if their financial orbit is stable? Let's get started. First off, this report is packed with forward-looking statements. In simple terms, these are the company's best guesses about the future, but they come with a warning. Things might not go as planned, so take everything with a grain of salt. One thing that stands out is debt. It's expected to go up, which the report itself says could reduce their financial flexibility. Imagine trying to do a yoga pose while wearing a really tight belt. That's kind of the situation Telesat wants to avoid. Speaking of shares, let's take a peek at who owns what. As of the end of 2024, there were about 14 million Class A common shares and Class B variable voting shares floating around. But here's the interesting part. There are also 112,841 Class C shares, 3 special voting shares, and just 1 golden share. It's like a game of Monopoly, but with way more complicated rules. To understand what's going on, it helps to know some of the lingo. Laurel, that's a company they used to be connected to. Leo, that's low Earth orbit where their new satellites will hang out. Unwind transaction, it sounds exciting, but it is just a future event of some share conversions. Alright, let's get to the numbers. This is where things get interesting. Revenue took a hit, dropping almost 19% to 571 million customers. The broadcast side is down because fewer people are watching traditional TV, and the enterprise side, think internet for businesses, is also not doing great. Digging deeper, profits are down as well. Adjusted EBITDA, which is a measure of core profitability, was about 67%, which is not a bad percentage, but much less from the 75% from the previous year. So making less money while a key metric is still positive is not ideal. It's not all about finances though. They mention anti-satellite weapons, which could result in the direct loss of a Telesat satellite. That is very scary and really does show how business is linked to geopolitics these days. Telesat's response to these changing markets is Telesat Lightspeed, their constellation project. Lots of hope is being placed in the success of Lightspeed. I guess space-based 5G is now a thing. Like many global businesses, Telesat is keeping an eye on trade wars and tariffs, anything that increases the cost of doing business internationally, or that prevents access to foreign customers can hurt their bottom line. They specifically mention that this could impact the deployment of Telesat Lightspeed. Zooming into the financials, Telesat Canada has a whole bunch of debt, over $3 billion. All that debt requires constant management, and the report admits it could make it harder to adapt to market changes. They will have to generate sufficient cash flows to pay the interest on its debt. The big shareholders have substantial control over Telesat, potentially leading to decisions that might not align with all shareholders' best interests. This concentration of power can be a double-edged sword, decisive leadership, or a blind spot to other perspectives. To fund its ambitious Lightspeed project, Telesat might need to sell more shares or warrants, which could dilute existing shareholders' ownership. Think of it like slicing a pizza into more pieces, each slice gets smaller. This new financial deal to fund Lightspeed project is tied to the government of Canada and government of Quebec, so it is also tied to specific operating rules. It limits some financial decisions and puts pressure on things like job creation and operations staying within Canada and Quebec. It adds another layer of complexity to the mix. Now, let's decode some tax jargon. There's a risk that Telesat could be labeled a passive foreign investment company, or PFIC. In the US, this isn't good because it can lead to higher taxes for American investors. The IRS, or US Tax Authority, might also disagree with some of Telesat's tax positions, leading to further complications. So, if you are in the US, talk to a tax advisor. A big portion of Telesat's value comes from their licenses to use radio frequencies. But these licenses are in the form of scarce spectrum assignments, and you guessed it, the value of spectrum can swing wildly. Telesat is betting big on their new Lightspeed constellation, but this comes with a long list of challenges. New technologies, potential launch failures, competition, securing regulatory approval, and raising enough capital. It is a long road and very little chance that they will not hit at least one major bump in the road. Finally, to continue selling services to the US government, Telesat needs to maintain certain security clearances. This requires compliance with complex regulations and agreements. If they fail to meet these requirements, they could lose out on valuable government contracts. A major thing I noticed reading this report is how vulnerable a satellite business is to external attacks. Telesat is aware of this and is acting to protect against it as they should, but this is something that other sectors do not think about as often. All these warnings are part of how these reports work though. The idea is to clearly state what risks are possible, even if not probable. Overall, Telesat faces a challenging situation. While they have an exciting new project in Lightspeed, they're also dealing with declining revenue in their traditional business and a heavy debt load. For the Lightspeed project to work out, they require to not only manage to pull off a major technological and financial feat, but also navigate geopolitical headwinds. It's a tough spot to be in. They are in a highly competitive industry and will likely need to raise additional capital to stay ahead. They seem to have very good relationship with the Canadian government and might rely on them to be bailed out if they are in trouble. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think about Telesat. And remember, if you found this video helpful, hit that like button and subscribe for more corporate decoder content.